Hello, I'm Jesse Johnson. I'm the co-creator of SubMachine, and we're going to do a full video walkthrough of using SubMachine. And in brief, SubMachine is a Premiere Pro extension that allows you to take transcription data and create perfectly timed word-by-word subtitles. And beyond that, using different mogurts or motion graphic files, you can create really robust animations and different styles and effects in your subtitles to make your subtitles really stand out and add that extra layer of polish and fun. So let's get started. First of all, we're gonna start by creating a transcription of our video here. So I have a 9:16 video laid out on my timeline, and I'm gonna use Premiere to transcribe that. So you go to Window, Text, and I'm gonna click Create Transcription. These default settings will be totally fine for us. Gonna click transcribe. So there it is. We have a transcription of our video right here. You can make any changes you want to your transcription ahead of time before we do anything with SubMachine. So we have our transcription here. Our next step is to create captions. So if we go to the Captions tab, there is a Create Captions from Transcription button right there. In the transcript window, there's also the Create Captions button right here. These settings are very important to getting accurate word-by-word timing result out of SubMachine. The first four values there you can completely ignore. It's these four at the bottom that we're concerned with. So we want to bring all of these values to their minimum. So for maximum length in characters, that's going to be 7. And while I'm doing this, I'm just going to point out that if you click and drag and move your mouse too far to the left, it gets sticky and it wants to stay on your mouse even after you unclick. So it can be a little annoying, but you just need to release your mouse when you're still at the edge of the frame there. All of these are at their minimum value, and that's all we need to do in the Create Captions window. So now you can see that we have really short caption segments here. It's basically every single word. And that's great because what we want out of this process is to get as much timing information as we can out of this transcription engine. We actually have a good idea of where each word belongs. Now that we have it, we need to export it into an SRT. And to do that, you click on the menu on the top right-hand corner, go to Export, and Export to SRT file. Just keep in mind, you're going to want to save this somewhere that you can access easily. You'll only need to access it once, but it's good to keep it along with the project you're working on. That is the entire transcription process to get going with SubMachine. Now that I've done that, I'm going to delete these captions here, as I'll no longer be using them. So that's it. You transcribe, you create your captions with the special settings, and you export an SRT. So now we have our word-by-word timing in an SRT file, and the next step is to select a mogrt. When you're selecting a mogrt, it is important that you choose one that has the same frame rate as the sequence you're working on. So all of the mogurts that we package along with SubMachine come with variants in different frame rates. Now we just need to grab the SRT file and the mogrt that we're using to sub this video. There are two methods you can use to place your SRT or your mogrt into these fields right here. The first one is you can just click on it and drop it in right there. The other one is you can actually just click on the short SRT or the mogrt button, and it will open up a dialog box, and you can grab the mogrt you want. So now that we have the SRT and the mogrt file, we're pretty much ready to go with creating our subs. And there's one last choice we should make before we do that. And that's how many characters do we want to allow to be on screen at a given time. In this case, it's a 9:16 video. So the shorter end is pretty good for me. Our default value is 20. And if you go even higher up, it's saying this is better for 16:9, where you have more real estate to have more text on screen. So now that we've picked out our SRT, our mogrt, and how long we want our phrases to be, we're ready to click Create Subs. So you can see, and this is all real time, they are just flying in on the timeline. I'm on an M1 Mac, and we found that performance on M1s is really just kind of stunning. So that is many, many dozens of individual clips on my timeline that are populated with the unique information from my SRT. Now that we have all of these mogurts on the timeline, let's just see what it looks like out of the box with the Animator Pro mogrt.
Hey man, I'm going out. Do you need anything?
Yeah, can you pick me up some COVID?
Dude, really?
Yeah.
Well, what strain?
Can you see if they have any Delta?
Look, you know they only carry Omni now, right?
Okay, great. So besides a few transcription errors, I think you can see that the words are coming in as they're being spoken. Something that if you were to do this manually, would be pretty agonizing. A lot of scrubbing, going frame by frame, and not to mention if you were trying to place all of these words manually and arrange them so that they looked like they were in a paragraph together. I've done it myself. It's agonizing. That's why we built SubMachine. That's kind of the core power of SubMachine, is that if you're not too picky about the look of your subtitles, but you do want something that feels dynamic, you can do a little bit of cleanup and basically call it good. But before I talk about cleaning it up or making any tweaks, let me talk a little bit about what's going on here. So you can see that the mogrts are arranged in alternating video tracks. So the alternating tracks represents your different sentences. So you can see right here that all of these words are printed on together. We've got 4 words, and if I scrub backwards, that's 3 words, 2 words, and 1 word. And that corresponds to how many mogurts we have on the timeline here. So to make changes to your mogrt, that all happens in the Essential Graphics panel. That's where all of the mogrt settings are stored. That's where you can change them. So you want to keep the Essential Graphics panel handy and visible while working with SubMachine, as the two are very closely involved and related to each other. So if you look at the word progression value in the top right hand here, you can see that it says 1. And if I scrub forward to the 4th mogrt, you can see that it says 4 now. And as I click backwards, you can see that they change 1, 2, 3, 4. So the only thing that's different between these 4 mogurts, the only thing is the word progression value is different. The text input is the same on all 4 of them, which is how they maintain the same shape and the same paragraphing and everything. But a very important core concept to SubMachine is syncing and understanding why we want to sync between mogurts. So let's talk about the various syncing tools that we have in SubMachine and when and how we would use. So for this bit right here, we have our character saying, "What's strange?" when in reality he said, "What strain?" So this is just a transcription error that you can expect to see with any AI transcription. SubMachine makes it easy to fix little problems like this really quickly. Because the problem is in our text input field, that falls under the Sync Text and Typeface tool. So all we have to do is fix this word, and now we need to apply that change to the rest of the words in this sentence. So if I go backwards, you can see that there's a little bit of a pop. And if I actually go into these mogurts, you can see that they still say strange. So to get rid of that little pop that happens because of the different amount of characters, all we need to do is select all of the previous mogurts. We'll do Sync, Text, and Typeface. That's our first tool right underneath Sync All. And now if I scroll back, you can see that there isn't really a pop in position anymore. And inside of all of these mogurts, they all say the word strain. So the way that we did that was we targeted the mogurt that had the correct text input that we wanted. And then to say where we want that input to go, we just have to select all of them. So that's kind of the basic primary way that our sync tools work, is that the playhead will target the mogurt with the desired attributes, and then all of the mogurts that are selected will receive that attribute. So any value that has that special T character next to it in a mogurt will be able to be synced with the Sync Text and Typeface tool. However, at the end of the video, I'm going to have a section with a little more advanced explanation of how exactly those T settings work and how they can work in your favor. Next, we have the Sync Style and Animation tools. So in this particular mogurt, we have a lot of style and a lot of animation settings. So let me just show you a color one first of all. I'm going to go through and I'm going to enable this setting called Specific Word Color. As I slide through, you can see I'm choosing which word I want to be blue, and that value lines up with which word I'm coloring. So you can see that the word C is not blue in the previous mogurts. So that's another situation where I simply target the mogurt that has the settings I want, select all of them, sync style and animation. And now, as I go backwards, the color is right there. So that's one style setting we can use. Let's look at an animation. I'm going to go down to our animation tab, and I'm going to check the per word animation slide in. So now that I've checked that, you can see that this word slides into place. And I can also apply that with the sync style and animation tool. So you can see they're all flying in individually. And then if I wanted to, I could apply that not only to this phrase, but I could apply it to as many mogrts as I want to. So I'm going to hit sync style and animation. So you can see all of those were animating in just by targeting the mogrt we want and selecting the ones we want it to apply to. Pretty cool. With the sync position, scale, and rotation tool, we're actually pulling values from the effect controls window as opposed to essential graphics. So position, scale, and rotation are all read by SubMachine and applied the same way as the other tools. So I can add a little bit of scale, I can move the text up, I can rotate it a little bit. And you can see in a single phrase, it's very easy to sync position, scale, and rotation. And then if I scrub backwards, you can see that all three of these mogrts have the same position. Likewise, I can do the same thing on all mogrts on the timeline. And finally, I'll show you how the Sync All tool can accomplish all of those in a single click. So on this one, I'm going to change a text attribute. So instead of now, I'm just going to say bow. Then I'm going to change an emphasis as well. So we're emphasizing this word bow. So that's text. Let's now change position. I'm going to change that a little bit. And then let's do something with style. So we'll change the fill color to red. And then let's do a little animation. I'm going to add a little bit of shake to it. So we've done enough changes to cover all three of these different types of tools. And if I select all the mogrts in this phrase and do sync all, now they all share the same attributes as the last one.
You only carry Omni now, right?
All right, so that is how our sync tools work. There are different tools for different situations, and then there's the sync all tool for a powerful way to make many changes across as many mogrts on the timeline as you need. Now I'm going to talk about the tools we have for splitting and joining the contents of each phrase. So here's one example. I'm going to play through it quick.
Yeah, I just want the good stuff.
It's really expensive.
So you can see that one speaker's line was carried through in with the rest of the second speaker's line. We have a tool called split one entire phrase, which would allow me to separate this word stuff so that it's no longer part of this other speaker. So all I do is I target the word that I want to be split off from the rest, and I select the entire phrase that's affected. And now you can see that stuff in the text input field is its own entity, and the word stuff has been removed from these next lines. So it's really expensive is standing alone. So on the other hand, if I wanted to include a word that was standing alone or an entire phrase, so I can join that with join two entire phrases just by selecting the entirety of each phrase that I want to join. And now stuff is back in to the phrase as it was. The reason I go back like that is because now I'm going to show off how the split and join selection tool can accomplish both of those operations in a single click. Again, we don't want the word stuff here. We want it separate. And what really makes sense is to join it in with the previous one. So I can select any group of mogrts that I want, and it will create a new phrase while also separating the mogrts from the surrounding phrase. So I can just grab these right here really intuitively, just grab them and click the split and join selection. And now the word stuff has been added to the end of this phrase, and they all go together, and the word stuff has been removed from the next phrase. So it's a really powerful way to create new phrases. Even if they were in two different phrases, I could just say, oh, I want good stuff and it's really to be their own little chunk. I can grab them, split and join, and now they're completely separate. The split and join tools are a really powerful way to manage where your words are in a way that isn't super tedious, and you can do it really quickly. So now I'm going to talk about the reset word progression tool and the -1 and the +1 tools right here. So if I were to select a mogrt and I hit +1 or -1, you can see that the word progression value is changing, and the amount of words being printed is also changing. You might be in a situation where you actually need to add an additional word into a phrase, which can affect the word progression count. So in this case in particular, let's listen to what they're saying here.
Hey man, I'm going out.
Okay, so he's saying, hey man, I'm going out. So we need to change the text input to be correct. So, hey man, I'm going out. So we can sync that text change back, but the problem is that we added a new word. So you can see that the isn't being printed even on our final mogrt. The way we can fix that is we need to figure out where did we add a word. And because the transcription only heard hey and not hey man, I can basically just make a cut here. And now we have the right amount of mogurts for each word in the right place. However, the word progression value isn't right. So these two are both 1 because I just cut this mogrt in half. Then it goes to 2, 3, 4, 5, and not up to 6 where we need it to. So that's where the reset word progression value tool comes in handy. I can just select all of these mogurts and click reset word progression. And now, as I go through these, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All the words are being printed, and we were able to make that correction by adjusting the text input, making sure the amount of mogurts were correct and that they were cutting when the words were being spoken, and then using a reset word progression. So the timing might not be totally perfect because I did it manually, but let's see.
Hey man, I'm going out.
Yeah, totally works. So that is our reset word progression value tool. So that kind of covers our core concepts. We were able to fix text input errors, fix the phrasing with the split and join tools, and go through the core concept of how we sync by targeting mogurts, selecting the mogurts we want to affect, and using our sync tools depending on the situation. Another setting that falls under the sync text and typeface tool would be something like emphasized word. And you can see that there's a little T here next to this setting, which indicates that it's synced with the sync text and typeface tool. So this emphasized word slider is really easy to use. We just select which words we want to emphasize. It's a great way to add a little bit of impact. While we're at it, let's also bump these words down. Great. So now we've added some emphasis to what he's saying. We could do the same thing with an italicized word. And so now if I use the sync text and typeface tool, you'll see that they all match in terms of arrangement, emphasis, and spacing. So all these values that have the T value are synced with the sync text and typeface tool. One of the reasons for having kind of a special condition on this tool is, let's say, for example, that I wanted to change the font to something like Bebas New now. I could accomplish that within my phrase right here with the sync text and typeface tool, and that's great. Now they all have the same font. But let's say, for example, I also wanted the next line to have that same font. If I target the one with the font I like and then select the new mogurts in the next phrase and do sync text and typeface, you'll see that the font was applied. However, what wasn't applied was the text input. Because obviously, if we brought that text input over to the other mogurts, they'd be saying the wrong words. These special T values protect from accidental propagating of values like that. I wouldn't want to emphasize the fourth and second words and italicize the second word in every single mogrt. That would just create a little bit of chaos that we don't need. So the sync text tool is really intelligent and kind of protects you from accidental mistakes like that while still allowing you to make global changes like syncing the font to every single mogrt on the timeline, which I can do right now. So you can see they all now have this Bebas New font, but we did not apply those other settings that we didn't need, like emphasized word, as those settings are best used locally on a phrase-by-phrase basis as opposed to globally. So that's the overview of how SubMachine works. From there, you can really go kind of nuts with the animations you want to use, the coloring choices, the font choices, and the idea is that as you get comfortable with that basic workflow, you'll start to find that you can create really expressive, really fun subtitles that have a lot of character and style to them. So thank you so much. We really hope you enjoy SubMachine, and we're really excited to see what users can do with it.